And got captions on. All right, India, Mozambique. Wonderful. All right, let me turn off my captions here. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. And Madeline, my lovely co-host, will keep letting people in, our late arrivals. But thank you all so much for joining us. We are excited to see there's so much interest in this program. And so our goal with this webinar is to help you learn more about EE 30 Under 30, about our organization, the North American Association for Environmental Education, a little bit about what is environmental education, and also some tips for writing a strong nomination. And I'm guessing that's why a lot of you are here. So we will definitely give you some helpful advice on how to write a strong nomination for this program. We will also have plenty of time for questions at the end, but we will also stop throughout to take some questions. So please add your questions in the chat throughout. We will get to as many of them as we can. This will also be recorded, and we will share the link to the recording in the next few days. All right. So a few guidelines we want to share with you before we get started. First of all, please try to keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. This helps us to avoid background noise. It helps to make sure that people can hear me and Madeline as we're giving you some advice here. But please do speak up or tell us in the chat if we've said anything that isn't clear or if you want us to repeat anything. We want to make sure that all of this is very clear, so we are happy to repeat anything. You can also type your questions in the chat throughout this hour. Madeline and I will be answering questions in the chat, but we'll also answer questions out loud as we take some pauses throughout the hour. You can also turn on automatic captions by clicking CC on the menu, and then you can view subtitles in English as we're going through this. The recording that we will post on YouTube will also include captions if that helps you. And just let us know, you can message Madeline in the chat if you have any issues finding the captions. All right, so just really quickly, I want to introduce you to our team here that is leading this webinar. Both Madeline and I are on the international programs team here at the North American Association for Environmental Education, or NAAEE, and we oversee much of EE 30 Under 30, from the application to the selection process and all the way through to everything that we do with our alumni. So we are here to answer all of your questions about EE 30 Under 30. So EE 30 Under 30 is a program of the North American Association for Environmental Education, which we also call NAAEE or NAAEE. You will probably hear both. We are a professional association for environmental education, and we work with educators throughout North America, as it says in our name, but also around the world. And our goal here is to advance the field of environmental education. We have a huge range of programs working to build leadership, to strengthen networks, to link research to practice, and a lot more for environmental education professionals. And I just don't have time to get into all of that here, but we have an incredible number of resources on our website, including guidelines, toolkits, blogs. We have a networking platform for environmental education professionals, all on our website. So I really encourage you to explore our website if you haven't already at NAAEE.org. All right, so before diving into EE 30 Under 30, we wanted to really briefly share with you how we define environmental education, or EE. You will hear me say EE, because we actually define EE pretty broadly. EE takes place in so many different contexts with many different audiences. It's not just in schools. So, and with EE 30 under 30, we really want to recognize that diversity of approaches in EE. So we really wanted to emphasize this here on this webinar. So EE is beyond sharing knowledge. It's beyond raising awareness. It's also about equipping people with the tools.
My camera stopped working a while ago. My name is.
All right. It's also about equipping people with the tools, skills, and motivations to be stewards of their environment. And that can be both the natural environment and the built environment, and include urban, rural, or natural areas, whatever your environment is. And EE is very much a learning process. It's all about developing critical thinking skills to make informed decisions about the environment. So it is not about what to think, but how to think. So environmental education really should encourage open discussion and problem solving to help people build the capacity, and to help groups and communities build the capacity to address environmental issues, sustainability issues in their communities. Environmental education also gives opportunities for people to learn about the environment and sustainability issues, so to build their knowledge and awareness, including around the role that we play in our environments, and also to see the connections between social, environmental, and economic components of sustainability. It also helps people build the skills to address those sustainability issues. EE can also help people reflect on their own values and attitudes towards their environment. And ultimately, we hope that environmental education will help people use that knowledge, skills, and attitudes they've gained to make more informed decisions and to take action for their environment. And when we think about the objectives or goals of environmental education, we generally focus on the following categories. So one is people's awareness of their environment and environmental issues. Also their knowledge about, or also their experience in their environment. Their attitudes or their set of values, but also maybe a sense of concern for their environment. And also the skills that are needed for identifying and solving environmental problems. And finally, participation is a really important objective with environmental education, because we hope that with environmental education, we can be providing people and communities, again, with opportunities to be actively involved in decisions concerning their environment. So I hope this overview just helps you see the many, many different ways that environmental education can show up. I hope that this will help you see some alignment, see where your work aligns with environmental education, helps you to see what parts of your work maybe to emphasize or to highlight as you're working through your nomination. And just to emphasize again, with environmental education, your audience can be anyone, anywhere. Environmental education really is a lifelong learning process. It's for children, adults, everyone. It can also, you can be engaging multiple generations together. Environmental education can also happen anywhere. It can be in the formal school system or outside of school, in your church communities, religious communities, nature centers, really anywhere, literally anywhere. And again, it can be concerning both natural and built environments. So we will share these links out along with the recording, but we want to share with you a couple links that you can explore after this webinar to read more about some of the foundations of environmental education and some of those key principles. So you will have access to these links after this webinar. All right, so now on to 30 under 30. And I believe after this section, we will do a brief pause. So building leadership is one of NAAE's core goals. And through EE 30 under 30, we are working to recognize, award, and build the capacity of really diverse talent that exists in every community around the globe. So this really diverse group of change makers all over the world creating change in their communities. And the program started in 2016, and it has really grown in its reach over the years. Our alumni community has really been instrumental in spreading the word, and some of you have maybe heard about this opportunity from some of our alumni. So we're now going into our 8th year, and we have 210 alumni from 42 countries. And of course, including many territories and other areas as well. So with EE 30 Under 30, our goals are to celebrate the leadership of young people around the world and also to help give them a professional boost wherever they are in their careers. We have awardees who are as young as 13 or 14 years old up to 30, of course. So we recognize that they are in very different stages of their career, but we hope that this community and the recognition that 30 Under 30 provides will help all of you wherever you are in your career. So as a 30 Under 30, you would receive access to our virtual alumni community. It's a great opportunity for networking and learning from other young leaders all over the world. You will also get recognition. So as an awardee, we will work with you to help you share your story on our platforms, as well as on your own platforms, as with your own networks and communities to help you share that achievement and promote your accomplishment and your work. You will also have access to professional development opportunities that we offer to our whole alumni community, including opportunities to apply for scholarships to attend our NAA conferences, which some years are in person and some years are virtual. And this photo here is from our conference last year in Tucson, Arizona. And this is some of our 30 Under 30 who were able to join us. So on that note, I also want to encourage all of you to save the date for our conference this year. It's one of the largest international gatherings for environmental education professionals in the world. And this year, our conference will be virtual from October 18th to 20th, and it is open to anyone. So 30 Under 30 or not, no matter how old you are, it is open to anyone. So please keep a look on our conference website for more updates. All right, and I'm going to turn it over to Madeline. And Madeline, we're going to take a break after this section, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And hi, everyone. Again, my name's Madeline. I'm just going to talk through a few logistics first and then provide some overall advice. And then I'll turn it back to Nina and we'll go through the application a little bit more in depth. But just to start with the timeline, nominations are due March 29th at 11:59 p.m. US Eastern Time. It's a little bit over a month from now. Be sure you confirm that time in your time zone because here in the US, daylight savings time will change that time difference early next month. So just make sure you note that. And all nominees will be notified of their status by August 2023, so August of this year. All right, let's move on. So eligibility, who's eligible for the program? So first, you can nominate yourself or you can nominate somebody else. If you're not eligible at this time, we definitely invite you to nominate a colleague that you think would be a great match for the program. And you can nominate as many people as you'd like. Just know that you do have to submit a separate application for each nomination. So our nominees to be eligible must be 30 years or younger on December 31st, 2023. So 30 or younger by the end of this year. They must be using environmental education and also be able to demonstrate some leadership qualities, which we'll talk about a little bit more throughout the hour. However, we welcome applications from any sector. Our alumni generally come from a wide range of disciplines. So as long as you're using environmental education in some way, definitely apply. You must be able to complete the application in English. At this time, we only have the capacity to accept applications that are in English, but we don't judge you or review based on your how fluent you are in English. So as long as you can communicate about your work and your passions in English, definitely still apply. And like Nina said, we accept and welcome nominations from anywhere in the world, any country, any territory. Okay, so those are a few logistics. I'm going to move in and do some advice now. So I'm going to talk as if you're the nominee, but all of this advice applies if you're nominating someone else as well. And generally, this comes from some of our reviewer feedback we've received over the years, and also some of the stronger nominations that we've seen as well. So first piece of advice is that concrete examples can really strengthen your application, particularly including examples with how you use EE and why you're a leader. This paints a clear picture for reviewers as they read your application. Kind of along those same lines, more detail is better. We no longer allow supplemental documents like we have in the past, so be sure to include enough detail for reviewers to really understand your work, your impact, and your leadership. If there's a 300-word limit for a question, for example, don't be afraid to use all of that. If you've been awarded other awards or recognitions in the past, that's really great, but we ask that you don't list them in the application. We don't consider past awards in our selection process. We'd much rather hear about your passions and your work and what you've accomplished in EE. And we do provide a space at the end of the application where you can list your affiliations. So you also don't have to provide those throughout the application. There'll be a separate area for you to list who you're affiliated with or what organizations you work with. This one I think is the most important, is give yourself plenty of time to complete your application. Especially if you are starting now, we encourage you to go ahead and request a letter of support first. And you can do that before you submit your nomination. And so you can work on your nomination, save it as a draft, and come back to it later in submittable. You can also download offline versions with Word or PDF, which we have available on our webpage if you want to work on the application offline, but make sure that you submit everything, your whole final nomination, online through submittable, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit. So definitely start now, start early, submit early if you can. And then overall, tell us your story. We do want to know about your work and your impact, but we also want to know about you, your motivations, and your vision for the future. Nominees that have been the most memorable are ones that can paint a clear picture about themselves, about their leadership and their goals. We do provide advice and guidance throughout the application online, so you'll have that there as well. And we have an FAQ that you can visit at this link below to kind of see some of our most asked questions and answers. And before Nina dives into the application questions, I just want to go over leadership a little bit. We often get this question about how do we define leadership? And we recognize that leadership shows up in many ways, and everyone might have their own unique mix of leadership styles and traits and qualities. With 30 Under 30, we're very intentional about not giving a specific definition of leadership. We don't have a specific box or set of characteristics that you fit into. Generally, we broadly think of leadership as this sentence here: leading change and inspiring others in your community, organization, or network. So to kind of show the diversity of leadership traits out there, we have this word cloud. This is on the next slide here from a subset of our 2021 nominees when we asked them about what makes them a leader. It seems these are some of the themes that have emerged from that. So we encourage you to look at this for inspiration, but also reflect on what makes you a leader, what makes you unique as a leader. And then we just have a few examples of leadership, and we provide these in the application as well that you can go back and look at. But just a few things among many other examples that I'm sure are out there of how leadership can show up in your work. So it could be building partnerships, promoting a shared vision of change for your community, adapting to change or being flexible during uncertainties, finding innovative solutions to challenges or obstacles that you face, creating space for equitability, mentoring others, and listening to the needs of your community or audiences. So those are just a few examples, but definitely really spend time reflecting on this as you work through your application. Okay, so I am going to pass it back to Nina, but I know we're also going to pause for questions. So ask your questions in the chat, and there will be more time during the hour to ask questions as well if you don't have any right now. But I'm going to pass it back to Nina.
All right, thanks, Madeline. So I don't see any questions in the chat so far. I'll give folks just 1 minute if they have any to add. And yes, we will send a recording of this to everyone who has registered, and we will also add it to the website so you can access the recording on the 30 Under 30 webpage. In terms of references, if we are nominating others, do they need other references? We will get into this when we'll talk through the application, but if you are nominating others, you will actually need to have your nominee submit a brief form as well as a video. So we will cover that here shortly. Can I nominate a person with disability? Yes, definitely. We encourage anyone to apply. Will these slides be available? Yes, we can share these slides as well. How many will be given? Patricia, could you clarify your question in the chat? How many, we will award 30 people will receive the award of EE 30 Under 30 each year. And Mohammed, I see that you have a question. Mohammed, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, Nina. You hear me, Nina?
Yes.
Thank you, Nina, and have a nice evening or whatever here in Africa is afternoon. Actually, we are very much excited for this program. We never know about this program before, but since we started the last month, we are just following the program for environmental educations. That's very significant, important to our country, especially for Somalia. As a civil fish organization, is an organization working for the marine and coastal environment, which is currently now affected by mangrove degradations and other ecosystem in the coastal area, in particular in Somalia. That's very large known. And recently, the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP, country office has been published, the environmental risk in the country for anywhere. So in terms of the degradation, in terms of the land erosions, and so on. So to come to the point, I see the nomination to March 29 deadline, and everyone can nominate. So we need more clarify or more clear about how our organization can participate and what eligibility that we're going to participate, because I see this program is under 30, as you mentioned, 30, but we are older than that 30 age. So, but we have a generation team and over 20 years or 25 years working our organization. So, is it that eligible? We can nominate someone through our organization, or maybe they can get support from your logistic support for your site. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. So this program is focused on young leaders under the age of 30. So you do have to be under 30 years old to be a nominee. But as Madeline mentioned, if you are older than 30, you can nominate someone else who is under 30 and who is eligible. I will also say though, through NAEE and also one of our programs is the Global Environmental Education Partnership. And Madeline, could you put in the chat just the name in our website? We do have a lot of other opportunities to be engaged with our network. So if you unfortunately find that you just aren't eligible, or no one in your organization is eligible for this, we do encourage you to look at the other opportunities and other resources that we have on NAA's website and also through our Global Environmental Education Partnership program. Yeah. All right, we've got a lot of good questions. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Forba, Sandra, how many alumni are selected for a section, and are there precise numbers per region? It's a great question. So each year we select 30 awardees, and then they become part of our alumni community once that year has passed. We do not have specific numbers per region, but we do try to have a balance across each class to be representative of all of the regions around the world. Of course, not all countries are going to be represented, but we do try to have a number of different identities, backgrounds, approaches to environmental education, age, experience level, types of leadership. We really try to have a balance of all of those in the class. So we don't have any precise numbers per region. Do you notify the reference and applicants simultaneously? Dependra, I'm not sure I understand your question. If you could clarify in the chat, then we can address that. And we will talk more about the reference form in a little bit, so we can come back to that. But please, if you could clarify in the chat what you mean, that would be very helpful. Is there a specific individual that I can seek for reference? I'll get to this when we talk about the reference forms. Is social media activity necessary if my areas of work do not have enough connectivity and the activities are done on the ground? Social media is not a criteria. You don't have to be active on social media. You don't have to have an active social media presence. What we're really concerned about is, what are you doing on the ground? How are you reaching people? How are you engaging people in environmental education? So even if you don't have social media posts to show what you're doing, that is totally fine. So I still encourage you to apply, even if you don't have a big social media presence. Will the application include photographs? We do not have a space for you to upload photographs, but we do have a section, as Madeline mentioned, and we'll get to this, where you can list your affiliations and web pages. So you can upload pages that have photographs that talk about your work. It could include a blog. You can list your social media pages if you have posts with photographs on there. So there are ways that you can include photographs. All right, wow, so many good questions. Let's continue, because we will cover a lot in the application piece, and we're going to pause again at the end for more questions. Oh, I see what you mean, Dipendra. So if the reference and applicants are notified in the same loop. So we typically notify whoever submits the nomination. So if you are nominating someone else, then you will receive the notification if you have not been selected. If you have been selected, then we will notify both you and your nominee. If you are nominating yourself, then we will notify you whether or not you've been selected. I hope that helps. Okay, so on to the application. So I'm going to walk through the questions that you will see if you are nominating yourself, but just because typically on these webinars, we tend to have more people who are nominating themselves than people who are nominating other people. But the questions are very similar if you are nominating someone else. So I'm going to walk through what you will see if you were nominating yourself, but then we'll go through some of the differences at the end for anyone here who is nominating someone else. All right, so one change to this year's application is that we will require you to submit a brief video introducing yourself. So through your nomination, we want to know not only about your work, but also about the person behind it. So the next few questions on the application, you'll see that they will ask about your EE work, about your leadership. But with this video, we want to give you the open space for whatever you want to tell us about your story. This should be an informal video, and we'll talk a little bit about video tips in a second here, but this should be an informal video and is mostly an opportunity for you to introduce yourself, to introduce your background, your passions, really anything you want us to know, anything that, you know, about what makes you unique, what drives you, what led you down the path that you're on, what inspires you. And this will just help our reviewers get to know you a little bit better beyond your environmental education work. So with this, we also encourage you to share about your personal connection to your work. So again, how did you end up where you are? What drives you? What's inspired you? And if you are nominating someone else, your nominee will be asked to submit a video as well. And we will discuss that once I get through the self-nomination format. So the next question following your video upload, just in case the video doesn't give you enough space to share your story because you only have 90 seconds to share your story, you can also include a brief written response to include anything else that you want to share about your background, your passions, your identity, anything that you didn't have space to share in your video. Oh, yes. All right, so the video is meant to be, as I said earlier, an informal introduction to yourself. We aren't looking for fancy effects or graphics or music. We just want to hear from you. We encourage you to keep it simple. We want to hear from you about your story. So we put together a few video tips that we hope will help. So first, you have to keep it short. You only have 90 seconds. So think very carefully about what you want to share in this video. And you do have the extra 200 words or so if you want to include anything else outside of your video. Next, make it personal. We want to get to know you and your passions. And like I said earlier, we want to know about your environmental education work, but we also want to know the person behind that work, the leader behind that work. So this is your chance to make it personal and to tell us about your story, about what drives you, what makes you unique. Also, please talk to the camera. These are some screenshots here that just show some examples of kind of what we're looking for. Again, nothing fancy. Please don't worry about adding content, photos, videos, anything else. We want to hear from you. So just you in front of the camera is perfect. Also, please ensure a quiet background. We want to be able to hear you clearly. So we don't recommend adding any music or audio tracks in the background. If you want to record outside, that's fine, but make sure that it's a quiet background if you want to film outside. So make sure there's no traffic or maybe some loud waves at the beach. I really encourage you to listen back to your video before you upload it to make sure that you can clearly hear yourself. If you can't hear yourself clearly, then we probably won't be able to. So last, make sure that your lighting is good. We want to be able to hear you, but we also want to be able to see you clearly. And I also want to know, our reviewers in our selection panel will not be judging your video quality. So again, you don't need to worry about the quality of the video or anything fancy like that, but rather your video will help our reviewers learn more about you and learn more about the person behind the nomination. All right, so if you have submitted a nomination in the past, that is honestly the biggest difference between last year's application process and this year's application. The rest of this is very similar to how it has been in the past. So the next question is, how do you use education to engage people in building a sustainable future? So with this question, we want you to describe how you are using education to engage people in building a sustainable future. So focus on the work that you have already done or are currently doing. If you can, we often are asked this question, can I talk about work that I'm planning to do? Generally, we encourage you to focus on work that you have already done or that you are currently doing, because that better demonstrates your experience and your leadership. And you might be able to talk about some outcomes or some work that you've actually implemented. In some cases, there are strong nominations that talk about future work. So I don't want to say, it's totally not eligible, but we really encourage you to focus on work that you've already done or are currently doing. And you can, of course, talk about your future plans, because that shows your commitment. That shows that, that's part of your story, if you have ideas of where you're going in the future. But for this question, try to focus on work that you're already doing or have done. And it's okay if it was last year, for some reason you needed to take a break for a year for school or something else, that's fine. So with this, we really encourage you to include detail, as Madeline mentioned earlier. So we want to hear about your goals, your education goals here, what issue you're addressing, what activities and approaches you're using to reach that goal, who your audience is, any outcomes you've seen. You don't need to have a formal evaluation of your work, but if you have any positive outcomes you've seen, we want to hear it. This can include the number of people you've reached, or it could include a brief quote from someone about how the work impacted them. But if you do have some outcomes, we'd love to hear them. What's really important is also to be very clear about your role in any of the activities that you described. So in this question, you don't need to talk about so much your leadership qualities, because we ask about that after. But if you talk about any activities that you did as a team or within a bigger organization, please be clear about your role in them, because this nomination is about you. And everyone works in teams. We recognize that teamwork is important. And so you can say that you worked in a team or within a bigger organization, but we also need to hear about your specific role in any of these activities. So for example, did you help with planning the activity? Did you help implement it? Did you help evaluate it? Were you managing a team? Did you help with the partnerships? Even if you had one specific part, we want to hear about it. And so again, please give as much detail as you can in this question about your activities, about the goals that you were trying to achieve. So for example, if you are doing workshops, we really encourage you to elaborate on that. So tell us the goal of the workshops, some examples of the activities if you can. We often get this feedback from our reviewers that they wanted to know a little bit more and not just a list of the activities. And so for this, again, I encourage you to look back at some of those resources. The links that I shared earlier, they will talk more about environmental education, some of the key principles that I was going over earlier. So you can see, what are some of these outcomes I can talk about? How does my work align with some of these key principles of environmental education? All right. Yeah, details. Okay. So the next question is about leadership. So Madeline went over how we define leadership, which is very broad. And we do recognize that leadership means different things to different people. So this is your opportunity to tell us, to describe for our reviewers in our selection panel, why you see yourself as a leader. What makes you a leader? And that can mean so many different things. You don't have to be in a leadership role. You don't have to be a CEO or a founder of an organization. You can be an interpreter in a park, and you can be leading an initiative. You can be showing leadership in any role. As a community organizer, you can be showing leadership. So we're not just looking for titles here, we're looking for how you've demonstrated leadership qualities in your work, and we want to hear some examples. So we often hear another common comment that we get from our reviewers is that they wish the nominees provided more examples of how they demonstrated leadership. So be as specific as you can here about why you are a leader. Talk about maybe a specific situation with an initiative or an event or a campaign, a program that really demonstrates one way that you are a leader. So we want to see some examples of any leadership traits that you describe. And you can refer back to the examples that Madeline went through earlier. Those are just some examples. Again, that is not a complete list. We really want to hear from you about what makes you a leader. What is unique about your leadership? And so I encourage you to look back at those. Those examples are also in the application form itself. But please think beyond those if you don't see any alignment between your experiences and those examples. My last point with this question is, as Madeline also mentioned, please do not simply list your past awards and recognition. You may have received some leadership awards in the past, and that's amazing, but we would rather hear about your actions and your leadership qualities that helped you receive those awards than just the fact that you've received them. Our selection panel does not consider past awards when they're selecting the next class. They're instead looking at your work and how you've demonstrated leadership. So think about what helped you receive those awards and describe that rather than just listing awards. All right, so next up, the next question is, why do you want to join the 30 under 30 community? So here we just simply want to hear why you want to be a part of 30 under 30. How might you benefit or grow from being part of this community, from the recognition that you might receive, from the professional development, any of that? How might you personally or professionally benefit from that? How might you benefit from it? And also importantly, we will also want to hear how you will contribute to this community. And we ask this because our EE 30 under 30 community really thrives on active engagement from our awardees and our alumni. So we want to know not only how you'd benefit, but also what you would bring to that community. If you are nominating someone else, we will ask your nominee to also answer this question through their letter of support. And I'll explain that here shortly. All right, so for the letter of support, if you are nominating yourself, you will need to request a letter from a reference from a person who can share about you as a leader. And so starting this year, because these letters of support have provided such valuable perspective about our nominees, these are now required. And we do need to receive these letters by March 29th, or the overall application deadline. So as Madeline said, we encourage you to notify your reference as soon as possible. If you are nominating someone else, you will invite your nominee to submit a letter and a video. And again, I will go over that. But if you are nominating yourself, this is a little bit confusing. If you're nominating yourself, you will ask another reference to submit a letter for you. And so in order to do this, you simply put their email in this section of the application, click send request now, and they will receive a link via email to access a form that they will then fill before March 29th. And this is very important. You can do this before you submit your application. So I really encourage you, when if you're even considering applying, think first about who you want to submit your letter of support, who is your reference. Go directly to this section of the application, submit their email, click send request now, and then go back and complete the rest of your application. And that will give your reference a long time to fill that submission. So you don't need to be ready to submit your nomination when you submit this request. I hope that's clear. All right, and it is a very brief form. They are simply asked, why should this person be a 30 under 30? It's very brief. All right. I'm going to actually pause here for a couple questions really quickly, because we are getting a lot of really good questions, and we're very close to the end here. So from Patricia, can the video have subtitles in English but be in a native language? That is a very good question, Patricia. We haven't been asked this question before. If possible, I would encourage you to submit a video in English. But if that is a real hardship, it is fine for you to submit a video in another language and include subtitles. I will say though, most of the professional development opportunities, our conference, a lot of the engagement that we do with our alumni is in English. So our alumni generally have speak enough English to be able to participate in those activities, but we don't want that to exclude anyone necessarily. So if someone has sufficient English, if a nominee has sufficient English to participate in activities like that and benefit from those experiences, even if they're in English, but maybe they prefer they are more comfortable doing their video in a different language, that is fine. All right. So Laura, looks like we can get started on the application, save a draft, and send the request well ahead of time. Yes. Again, I really, really encourage you to do that, to just start your application, save it as a draft, and send that request for the reference even before you submit your application. Is the application form only available on the website? It is, but we also have a Word document version and a PDF version on the 30 under 30 web page. So Madeline, maybe you can share that web page here and how to find those versions. But you have to submit your application online through the online application form. We provide PDF versions because we recognize that it's easier for some people to access that. It's easier maybe for some people to work on those, but you will need to copy your answers into the online application. Do we need only one letter of support? Do you accept more than one? We only allow one letter of support at this time. Yeah. So just one reference. And going back to, there was a question earlier about who should submit this reference. We generally look for someone who can talk about you as a leader. That can be a professional reference. It can be someone maybe that you volunteered with. It does not have to be a supervisor. It does not have to be someone older than you. It could be someone that you supervise. It can be anyone, just anyone who can talk about you as a leader and why you should be a 30 under 30. Margaret, can nominations be done more than once by self and from another person? So Margaret, we actually have a good answer to this on our FAQ page. So Madeline mentioned it, but Madeline, maybe you can share that in the chat again. I encourage you to look at that and feel free to email us if that doesn't answer your question. And Amala, after the nominations, how are you going to support the nominees in their projects? So I shared earlier some of the benefits. You join a virtual community with the other 30 under 30, so with their opportunities to connect with and learn from the other young leaders. You get recognition for your work on our platforms, and we do have some professional development opportunities as well. And the opportunities that we provide vary year to year. All right, I'm going to keep going because we're getting close to the end of time here. Lots of great questions. So the next question that you'll get is around affiliations and web pages. So in this section, you can list any organizations, networks, or programs that you are affiliated with. We encourage you to focus on affiliations where you have had an active role. So maybe you've been a volunteer or staff, a board member, an advisor, something where you've played an active role. And please specify how you are affiliated. So list an organization and explain, I'm a board member or I'm a volunteer. Specify your connection with that organization or with that network. Again, please don't just list awards and recognitions. We want to hear about organizations or networks where you have an active role and not just a recognition or an award. You can also list social media accounts for you or your organization. We will not be sharing those accounts out publicly. It will just be our reviewers viewing those. So if you have any accounts that you're okay with our reviewers looking at, you can share those, or any other web pages, any blogs, anything else that you want to share, you can include here. All right, so really quickly, if you are nominating, so everything I've just said is about if you are nominating yourself. If you are nominating someone else, a lot of these questions are the same, but there are slight differences. So you will be asked why you think this nominee should be a 30 under 30. You'll be asked about their environmental education work, about their leadership qualities, about their affiliations and their web pages. And you will also need to request a letter of support from your nominee. Now, for the letter of support from your nominee, we added this as a requirement to the application this year because our selection panel have just found the nominee's perspective to be so important. It can be exciting to nominate someone who doesn't know that they're being nominated and to have it be a surprise, but having the perspective from the nominee is just so crucial to making these decisions. And we really want to know that the nominee is interested in joining this community and has a lot to contribute to the community, that they're willing to be an active member of this community. So the format is just the same as I talked about earlier. You simply put in your nominee's email address here, click send request now. Again, I encourage you to submit this request even before you are ready to submit your application. You can submit this request, save your application as a draft, and come back to it later. And your nominee will receive a link via email to the form that they need to fill. And they also need to submit that form by March 29th. Now, if you have any concerns about this, about your nominee submitting this form, please just email us, let us know. Madeline, maybe you can put the email in the chat. Okay, it's in her comment there, her last comment. Just email us if you have any concerns about that. And your nominee will be asked, oh, I've got too much stuff here in the way. A second. Okay, your nominee will be asked to submit a video introducing themselves. The same prompt as I mentioned earlier. And we do this because we do want to make things equal between the two types of nominations. So the nominee must submit a brief video, 90 seconds. They also have an opportunity to share anything else they want to share about themselves that they couldn't mention in the video, and then also why they want to join the 30 under 30 community. And if you are nominating someone else, you're welcome to share this recording with them if you think it might help them understand, some things to highlight, what to focus on. But you can also share with them our webpage, which has a lot of information about the program. They can view past, alumni biographies. So all of you, I encourage you to look back at our website. There you can access the online application. You can preview the application, as I mentioned, through a Word document or a PDF version, but you must submit your final application through our online form. We also have a link to help you spread the word if you're willing to help share this announcement with others. We have a promotional toolkit with some graphics and social media posts that you can paste into your social media accounts. We will post this webinar recording there, and you can also read through all of the biographies of our past awardees. And with that, we're done. So I'm happy to stick around for some extra minutes and answer any other questions that you have. Please contact us at this email. If you have any other questions, we are more than happy to help. We also have that FAQ page that Madeline mentioned earlier, and she pasted it in the chat. But I will go back through and see if we have any other questions. Actually, before I do that, Madeline, do you have anything else to add? Anything that I missed?
No, I think we're good. I think most of the questions in the chat were answered, but we do have one. I think it's from Harriet. And is it possible to share an audio version for the nominee support letter, especially for people who may be visually impaired?
That's a very good question. Yes, and we can actually, we will need to update the form to allow an upload, but yes, we can do that. Right, Madeline? I think we should be able to easily do that.
Yeah, we should be able to do that. I would recommend maybe just send us an email too, and let us know if you're nominating somebody else or if you're nominating yourself. So just so we know to flag that.
Yeah, we can definitely accommodate, and yeah, definitely recommend that you send us an email and we will figure out the best way to accommodate it. Great question. Elena, can someone have self-nomination and be nominated by someone else? Yes, you can nominate yourself and also have someone else nominate you. We do not, our selection panel does not consider the number of nominations that someone has in deciding whether someone is selected. So it's not necessarily a benefit to have multiple nominations, but I recognize that you can maybe get some more information shared if you have a self-nomination and also someone else nominates you. So in our FAQ page, we have an answer to that question, more around, does having more nominations help? But I hope that answers that question. Great. Wow, you all had such good questions. I think this year we've had maybe some of the best questions we've gotten. So thank you so much for all those questions. And we'll also update our FAQ page with some of these. Another one. All right. Apart from the nomination, is there any package support to countries to perform leadership and do awareness? So Mohammed, I would encourage you to actually, Mohammed, I would encourage you to email us and we can send you some links and some information about the Global Environmental Education Partnership and NAAEE. You can email us at this email address here. Anyone here, if you're interested in other opportunities to be engaged with our network, please email us. Yes, and we can share out some of those opportunities in our summary email with this recording as well. Yeah, this is not the only thing that we do. We really try to engage people from all ages, from all around the world with a lot of different opportunities. All right, well, if you have any other questions, please email us. Thank you again for your great questions and for joining us. We're excited to see so much interest, and we look forward to reading your nominations. Best of luck. Bye, everyone.
Nina, you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much, Nina. We are very much excited for your presentation this afternoon. As you mentioned before, the categorically of this environmental education, it is awareness, knowledge, skill, and participation, as you mentioned for your presentation. So there is any support in the ground to do some awarenesses to the community level in order to protect the environment, where environment has been degraded, where environment has been challenged. So is it that if there is a bucket support, maybe you can do something, and that nominee person, he can address in that program, in that area that has been done in before he come in for their conference. Thank you.
Yeah, so please send us an email, and you mentioned that you joined this webinar, and so we remember you. Send us an email and we'll send you some opportunities. Sometimes we have funding opportunities, not always, but we might have some upcoming funding opportunities outside of 30 under 30. And we have several newsletters that are the best way to stay updated. Actually, maybe let's add those to the chat here for everyone here that is interested, because it's really the best way to stay up to date on everything. So this is our NAAE newsletter. So if you scroll down a little bit on that page, you can subscribe to our NAAE newsletter. And there we announce a lot of funding opportunities, resources, even we post jobs as well. So that is the best way to stay up to date on everything that is coming out of NAAE. And we also have a newsletter with the Global Environmental Education Partnership, and there we share even more global opportunities. So I really encourage you to sign up for those two. But again, we are more than happy to help over email as well. So email us at 30under30@NAAE.org, or if you're particularly interested in the GEP, the Global Environmental Education Partnership, you can submit, you can email us at GEP@NAAE.org. Yes, if you have things to share out through our newsletter as well, please do send those to us. We are always happy to share out content from anyone. So please send that to GEP@NAAE.org, and we're happy to share it. But again, email us, and we will also do our best to connect you with relevant resources. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.